Women Today.
Faster, my good afternoon. It's 2:06. I'm Christy DeHaven, and for the next hour, you are very welcome to join myself and my studio guest on the Conister Rock, where today we're going to be hearing the music and memories of a bona fide Guinness World Record holder. I'm very excited about this. The only woman to ever stand on the top step of the mountain course podium, an achievement which earned her the title of Queen of the Mountain. Carolynn Sells, it is lovely to have you with us. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I wonder, first of all, how much does it actually matter to you that you are a female racer? And do you ever refer to yourself as a female racer, or do you just call yourself a racer?
I always just call myself a racer, to be honest.
Yeah.
But obviously, when I talk about the win at the Manx, I have to say I'm the only woman to ever win a race. So, because it is important. But when I was racing, I didn't matter what gender I was. It was just like once I had my helmet on, that was it. I was just going to race everybody and do as well as I could.
So do you ever feel, because obviously there aren't that many women who get into racing, and I'm sure there's all kinds of reasons for it, but do you ever sort of feel like a sense of duty to promote the sport to other women?
Not necessarily, because I don't think it is for all women. But any women that I know want to do it or show any interest in doing it, I'll encourage them as much as I possibly can and help them as much as I possibly can. But I don't feel like it's my duty to get women involved, to be honest, because I don't think it is for all women.
Well, it's interesting because I was saying to Stu before, I read an interview you did not too long ago online, a website interview. And in it, I think they'd said something to you about being a woman racer and encouraging women. And I love what you said, because you said you have to be a particular type of person, regardless of whether you're a guy or a girl, to get into racing, and certainly to do the TT circuit, because it does take a particular type of human, doesn't it, to do something like that?
It absolutely does, and there are lots of people that come here and think that they want to race here, and then when they get out there, they realise it's not for them. And, it's the same for men and women. It isn't for everybody. It is, you do have to be a particular kind of person, And
Definitely. You are clearly that, which is good.
I try.
We're going back then, we're going to go all the way back now, because you grew up in, and I quote, in Muchhool, Longton and Bretherton, yes. Which makes me sound a bit like a train announcer. I could be wrong, but they do sound like quite small places and not very fast.
No, they are small villages, actually. Dan Cooper, who races in the Manx, is graduating to TT this year. He's from Muchhool as well. And then, I lived there for a few years when I was little. Then we went to Longton, and then we went to Bretherton. But they're all small villages, lots of twisty, windy roads in between, which is where I learned how to ride motorbikes, really.
Amazing. And that kind of started, didn't it, when you were sort of 5 or 6, because you say that your dad was racing bikes from that age. And I love the way you described it when you sent us the information, because it's made it sound like such an exciting life, because you travelled from circuit to circuit with him, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Used to go in convoys on the motorways, and this is like the 1970s, so there wasn't that many, a bit like Withnail and I, the motorways are half empty. So we used to travel in little convoys and go to different race meetings with people and meet lots of new people, all over England, really. So it was a great way to grow up.
And were you ever scared for him? Because obviously you would see him going out there and being super fast on his bike.
No, we used to sit at the side of the circuit. I mean, in those days, the safety was a lot more lax, shall we say. And we used to sit right on the edge of the circuit with our legs over the bank, waiting for our dads to finish, and literally like a couple of feet away from us. And then they'd come and pick us up, and we'd jump on the back of the motorbike and go back up to the paddock on the back of the bike, from the circuit. You used to be able to do things like that in the 70s. You can't do that now.
No, exactly. And, I wonder as well what your mum thought about it, because there was at one stage, am I right in thinking there were 3 members of her family all doing the Manx Grand Prix at one time?
2003 was the first year me and my brother did it, and we were both newcomers, and my dad had been doing it for 18 years, I think, at that point. So, but my mum's very laid back, she doesn't let things faze her.
So she always supported you all in this crazy
journey?
Yeah,
neither of them particularly encouraged us to do it, but they definitely supported us,
And you just painted a wonderful picture of you sort of being down there at the circuit with your dad. And it sounds like you have had a fantastic relationship with him. So at that time, did he sort of encourage you to get into sort of motor racing and things? Because it must have been an even more male-dominated world back then.
No. I mean, they did buy me road bikes and help me get bikes on the road and stuff like that, but they never encouraged us to race. And I think like they both looked a bit scared when both me and my brother said we wanted to do the Manx Grand Prix, and they were both like, right, okay, but can't really stop you. So, you know, but they did help us in every way that they could
and you
to
must
do it.
And you must have learnt a lot from him. I'm assuming he'd let you get involved when he was out with the bikes as well. Did you get your hands dirty?
Yeah, we used to help him. We used to get up, like, you know, for early morning practice and help him push the bike up through scrutineering. And I used to do all his stickers. I used to hand cut them all out of sheets of Fablon. You know, my dad never got stickers printed. I had to make them for him and stuff like that. So yeah, we you know, I've done pretty much every side that there is in motorcycle road racing, to be honest.
Which is amazing. And you mentioned the stickers, and we'll come to that a bit later, because obviously you are also very much into design, which people may or may not know, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. But would you describe yourself then at that time as a tomboy?
Yeah, I was definitely a tomboy as a kid. Yeah, I was the one climbing trees and falling out of them and falling off, you know, doing wheelies on my brother's BMX. And I always remember really badly winding myself because I landed badly and I landed on the handlebars. And yeah, I was definitely never a girly girl.
Sounds like me. No fear as well by the sound of things.
Well, I think kids are like that though, aren't they? You know, they just go ahead. Well, most do. Mine do.
Well, I've loved, obviously, one of the things that we do on the show is you share music as well. And so we ask our guests to send in 5 pieces of music. You managed 10.
Yeah. I could have sent you about 500 probably, but yeah, I was really, really struggling to whittle it down, so I thought I'd give you some options.
And I've got to tell you, over the course of the next hour, they are fabulous. And I think one of the reasons I say that is because a lot of them are from my era, which is great, because I've been sort of bopping away listening to these as I've been putting these together. So because Carolynn has chosen the 10 songs, but we've only got the 5 spots for them, what I've done, and please don't hate me for this because I know you're very precious about these songs, but I have taken a little bit of each of the songs and sort of put them together in pairs. Okay. So I've given you a list of what they are. Mm-hmm. So tell us what the first pairing is and why.
The first pairing is Led Zeppelin, Immigrant Song, and Black Sabbath, War Pigs. 2 songs, 2 really good songs from my childhood that I grew up listening to. My mum and dad were, you know, they were really into their late 60s, 70s rock, and you know, that's what I grew up with, and that's what I still love to this day. So 2 of my favourites.
And they're really, really good meaty songs to start with. Carolynn Sells' first choice of music.
Just like witches at black masses, evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning, death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah.
what a fantastic first choice. And we were just chatting in the background there, which is why I didn't come in quite soon enough there. And Carolynn Sells, the reason we were chatting, there's two reasons. First of all, we were talking about that Sabbath song, and you were saying how it means a lot to you. Tell us why.
Yeah, the whole thing, war pigs, it's anti-war. It's all about how the governments like to peddle war and send people in, they send the masses, and it's something I feel quite strongly about, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, I'm right with you there. And also, you just divulged a little bit of information which links you to Led Zeppelin. Please tell us about that.
Yeah, I meant to look it up beforehand, but the guy who designed Led Zeppelin 3 album cover actually marked my dissertation when I did my fine art degree. So, and he gave me a 2-1 as well, which is good.
That's fantastic. What was your dissertation about?
It was about the influence of drugs in visual imagery.
And to be fair, there's a lot of it.
Yeah. Certainly in music as well. So,
yeah, very much so. Well, we'll come to your artistic background a little bit later on in the show. But we are on the Conister Rock with Carolynn Sells today. It is now just coming up to 18 minutes past 2. We'll be speaking much more with her after the break.
Men's Radio. Women Today.
You are listening to Women Today. It's just gone 20 minutes past 2, and we are on the Conister Rock with Carolynn Sells this afternoon. And Carolynn, we've just been talking a little bit about your early life with your family and everything. It sounds like they really encouraged you to be adventurous. And I love the story you tell in your bike, and also the photo you sent through of a family holiday through Europe, but a family holiday with a bit of a difference. Tell us about that.
Yeah. We went round Europe for about, I think it was about 3.5 weeks, something like that, on a Norton ES2 and sidecar that my dad built.
That is amazing. What age were you when that happened then?
I think it was about 10. I can't, around about that age, 9 or 10, something like that. At the time, I just remember being squashed up in the sidecar with all the stuff, camping, because we're camping everywhere. And it was really, really tight, and it was really uncomfortable. And so there was many things that I didn't enjoy about it, but it was an amazing journey.
You must have come back with some fantastic stories for your friends. What did they all make of it?
Oh, I can't remember, to be honest. A lot of people will have seen us, and they've seen the sidecar and the bike and stuff. But I think we managed to break down in just about every country that we visited as well. So,
which gave you good standing and grounding for being able to deal with, a bit of spannering on the move.
Yeah, I didn't do any spannering in those days, I have to say. But no, it was a fantastic trip. It really was. Yeah. So we went and stopped to watch the Grand Prix at Brands Hatch on the way.
Fantastic.
On the way out as well. So, yeah.
So I'm assuming then from these different experiences, you always had that sort of, almost like oil in your blood, really. You must have just always had that yearning to do something with bikes.
Yeah. Dad had them. Dad had bikes since before I was born, and he was the only one in his family that did. And Mum used to go out on the back of him before they were married and things like that. So, yeah, it's always... and my mum and all her sisters all married bikers, to be honest. So it's kind of all in the family now. So.
And speaking of family as well, we do ask our guests to mention people that are inspirations to them. And your nan sounds like the most remarkable woman. You mentioned her as being her and your grandmother, but you said your nan in particular was an inspiration for very good reason from what you said about her. Tell us about her.
Well, my granddad had... Mum's dad got injured in the war, and anyway, he ended up having a brain hemorrhage in his 30s when my mum and all the sisters and brother were quite young. So my nan had to raise them all sort of single-handedly, really, whilst looking after Jack as well. So. And
there were 6 of them. She had to raise 6 children.
Yeah, Mum's one of 5 sisters and a brother.
My word.
So, and my dad's mum, she lived in Ireland, and she actually came over here when she was about 16, 17 and worked as a housemaid up at Stella Maris, and then ended up in England and built herself up quite a few businesses and stuff. So two strong women in the grandparents.
And to be fair, because you mentioned that you find strong women an inspiration, considering what you have achieved in your life, you must, even sort of from the outside looking in, would you consider yourself a strong woman then?
Yeah.
Yeah. You sort of have to be to do what you've done, really, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely am.
Yeah, it's a good thing to be embraced as well. You mentioned your grandmother coming over here. It was your father that took you to the Isle of Man for the first time, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yeah. I mean, gosh, Grandma was here probably in the 30s, I think it was. So, and then she settled in Southport and had her children over there. So, yeah, my mum and dad used to come over here when we were babies. They used to come over and see the TT and stuff. And then, obviously, once we turned up, Dad started racing, and then in 1985 he raced over here for the first time at the Manx. So that's where we started our annual holidays as a family.
And what do you remember of that?
Lots of things. The first couple of years were great. There was a lot of rain and wind. I think it was 1987. There was Hurricane Charlie, I think.
Oh my word!
Yeah, so we got blown off the paddock pretty much, really. So, but I loved it. I used to love coming, and it's about the only time I like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and sitting in pit lane with a hot chocolate from the Hillwood Centre and watching practice.
Because it's a very different thing, circuits to road racing, isn't it? And how did your dad do with that sort of transition? Did he enjoy it?
Yeah. Well, I suppose he's like me, really. He always rode probably too fast on the road anyway. So he was kind of born to be a road racer, but you have to do the circuits before you can do the roads. And also it was money and stuff like that. Dad started it as a bit of fun, and then in the 80s, he got to the point where he wanted to have a go around here, and that's where I grew up watching and thinking one day I'm going to have a go at that.
And how successful was he as a racer over here then?
He did pretty well. It was usually machinery that let him down.
Always.
But racing classic bikes, that's what happens, isn't it? So classic and vintage bikes he raced mostly back in those days, so they're not the most reliable of things.
And speaking of bikes, do you remember your very first bike? Tell us what that was.
My first bike was an RD50 that I had on the road at the age of 16. My brother had a few bikes that I had a go on. I think his first bike was a TS125 that Mum and Dad got him, and we used to ride it around the back garden. And I nearly crashed it into the greenhouse one time because I didn't know where the brakes were.
Good job you learnt that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I had to bail off.
And was it your pride and joy, your first bike then?
The RD, yeah, I loved it, yeah. But it was noisy. You could hear me coming for quite a while, so.
That's no bad thing. So we're going to go to your second music choice. In case you just tuned in, we are talking to Carolynn Sells this afternoon. And because there were 10 choices, we've sort of coupled them together. Mm-hmm. So tell us about the next 2 tracks, Carolynn.
Okay, so it's Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon and The Doors' Riders on the Storm. Again, too, from my childhood. I love them. I love the music I grew up with, and I still like listening to now. So. And
obviously, Dark Side of the Moon being the album, you had to I'm sorry, I've just chosen something for you from it. I hope it's okay. So I've chosen one of the sort of quieter ones to contrast in a way. With the Led Zeppelin
I like this.
Sabbath.
Yeah.
So we've got Breathe. So we're going to play that for you now, and also The Doors' Riders on the Storm.
Around, choose your own. storm. Riders on the storm. Into this house we're born. Into this world we're thrown. Like a dog without a bone, an actor out alone. Riders on the storm. There's a killer on the road.
Do you know what I have to say, Carolyn? It seems like a travesty cutting these songs short. I'm so sorry, but we've got to fit in chat with you. That's what today is all about. And before we come to a question that's just come in, we were chatting before we came on air, and you clearly are a music fan. As we said, you found it very difficult to cut down your choices to just 5, as I would as well. But you spent a lot of time going to music festivals, and you did what I always wanted to do, and you went to Glastonbury in the 90s as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I went a few times actually to Glastonbury. The first time me and my cousin hitched down. We hitched down to Bristol, and then we got a bus, and then we walked all the way around the outside and went to the back to the Travellers' Fields where my auntie was staying in a bus because she used to live in a bus.
Oh, what an
And
experience.
a proper hippie
Your family
experience.
are quite interesting.
Yeah, you could say that. So yeah, amazing experience up at the back with the TP fields and everything.
Oh.
So yeah,
A good time to go, because I think it's changed a lot in the past sort of 10 years or so, hasn't it?
yeah, and
Glastonbury?
it changed even while I was going. 95 was another year that I went, and I think that was the year that they pulled the wall down in one of the fields when I was there. And that was good, and that was the first year they had the dance tent there from Voodoo as well. I think loads of people from Voodoo went. And then 97, but that was a horrible year. It was so wet, just walking around.
You experienced wet Glastonbury. Oh.
Yeah, it was pretty rubbish, and security was getting tighter, so I preferred it when it was a bit more of a free festival.
I can imagine. Well, you mentioned dance, and we do have a couple of excellent dance tracks coming up a little bit later as well. But I will come to this question now. Gail has messaged in to say, ask Carolyn who she admires as a female racer and why. Also, her best memory as a club racer.
A female racer's got to be Jenny Timoth, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
She's just so lovely. She's so unassuming. She's not big-headed in the slightest. She is fast. She's the fastest woman around here. What she does at the British Superbikes is amazing. She's just a really, really nice girl, and she's super fast.
And really talented
Yeah,
as well.
so talented. Yeah, she's nice.
What about male racers then? Who do you appreciate in that sort of side? And I mean, obviously for their racing talent.
It'd have to be John McGuinness, to be honest. And he's the same. He's just, he's such a good racer. He's amazing to watch around here. He's the master after Joey, really, and totally unassuming and normal with it, which I like about people.
And it's interesting that, because you mentioned Joey. What does it mean to you, and what does it feel like having been given that title, whoever it was that gave it to you, Queen of the Mountain, when you've got Joey as King of the Mountain?
Yeah, that was pretty good. So that was an article written by Roger Willis, I think. So, yeah, it's good. I don't know.
Maybe there'll
I
be
think
a statue up there for you one day.
I don't know. I think Jenny is she's like Queen of the Mountain as well. She's, fastest round here. So I don't think I hold that title alone.
Also, Gail wanted to know, what is your best memory as a club racer?
Oh, I don't know. I think one of the funniest memories I have was when I was racing one year on my birthday, which is the 6th of May, and I was racing at Cadwell Park. And I face planted pretty badly at the hairpin.
Oh dear.
But when I stood up, there was about 4 or 5 other guys, because it was quite damp. There was quite a few of us had gone down, and they all stood and sang "Happy Birthday" to me.
While you were on the ground.
Yeah, while I was like wobbling around and didn't really know which way I was facing or anything. All I could hear was "Happy Birthday." So that kind of still makes me chuckle.
That is a good memory, and I love that you obviously just get back on, don't you, and carry
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Nothing stops
so-
you. So speaking of racing then, what was your first race and what do you remember of it?
My first race was in 2000 on April the 27th at Derby, up at Derby, and it was quite a baptism of fire, to be honest, because in my first race I got knocked off and knocked out at the chicane. Somebody had come off. Richard Murphy came off his bike behind me, and because I was going through the chicane, his bike went straight on and took me out, and I face planted again. It didn't happen that many times, but twice in one conversation. I face planted again and got knocked out. And when I came to, I tried to get up, and the marshal was on my back trying to hold me down. And I get quite claustrophobic in my helmet, so I was kind of like, oh, I can't breathe, let me up. But they didn't want me to get up until somebody had checked me over. So
that was your first race. And
that was my first race, yeah.
And
I
went on to do
went
very
back.
big things. Yeah, no, but in a very good way. We talked about how you travelled the UK and coming over here as well with your dad, and you used to sort of help him out. Did he help you out at all? Any spannering for you?
Oh yeah. No, Dad got my first, the first time I raced was on my dad's bike. So that was his bike that I crashed off. And I raced on that 2 times that year, and then I raced on another girls 400 for the endurance race at the end of that year. So I only did the three meetings. And then after racing on the 400, because I was racing on my dad's 250 or 350, I think, 2-stroke, I decided that I would be happier on a 400 4-stroke, which is what I had on the road as well. So Dad actually got my first bike for me, and it was supposed to be race ready, but it wasn't. It still had footrest and things like that on it. So we had to turn it into a race bike, and the two of us did that and did the first couple of years on that bike. So, and that's the bike I rode the first year in the Manx with a bit of backing from Martin Bullock. So
fantastic. And did you, because obviously we've mentioned before you've been in a number of races together, and did you, I believe you passed him in the 2009
I did,
race
yeah,
for the win. What did he make of that, and was he very competitive with you?
Well, yeah, Dad is quite competitive,
Yeah.
but he wasn't enjoying that race. He had a Honda RS 250, I think, that year, which was that year? Anyway, he wasn't, and it was very windy that day, and it was quite wet in places and stuff like that, and he just wasn't really enjoying it. And I passed him up at Bungalow Bridge, and I think he decided to pull in after that, because just the wind kept picking him up and blowing him about. On the little 250, it's not fun, so he decided to pull in, but obviously he's quite glad about that now, because he got to see me win the race. So
And what a win. And it's interesting because reading a little bit about it proves it's not just about being fast, is it? And you just mentioned the conditions then as well, but there's a real element of strategy to racing, isn't there?
Definitely, yeah. You've got to think about your strategy. You've got to, you've always got to have the end goal in sight, rather than, it's not the Alaman. The TT course isn't somewhere where you go charging into the first corner like you do at short circuit, and that's the person who, stands a good chance of winning. It's all about being consistent, about being smooth, about, knowing what your end goal is, and just, being focused on that, really, rather than, all out and let's go for it sort of thing.
You probably won't end up getting to the end, I think, if you do that, will you?
No.
So tell us about your next 2 choices of music then, Carolyn.
Okay, so I've chosen L7, Pretend That We're Dead, and Faith No More from Out of Nowhere, which are 2 of my favourites from my sort of late teens, early 20s.
Fantastic choices both.
What's up with what's going down in every city and every town?
Again, amazing choices, Carolyn. And I have to say, I am really finding it difficult to cut them off as much as we're having to. But the chat's brilliant as well, as has been noted by Mark Hurd, who just messaged in to say, I just wanted to say that all productivity has stopped for an hour here in our motorcycle spares business in South London. I'm a mad fan of the TT and Manx GP and the Isle of Man generally. Really enjoying the fascinating interview with a class mountain course rider. And the great music choice is a bonus. So that's from Mark.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
Hello to Mark. Glad you and the team are enjoying it. And thanks very much for your message. And you have seen a number of these bands. We're talking about the great music. You've seen L7 and Faith No More, haven't you?
Yeah. I've seen L7 a few times. Faith No More. Yeah.
I'm very jealous. That's all I'm going to say. We will have plenty more chat with Carolyn coming up after the next break. But it's just coming up to 20 minutes to 3 now.
Women Today.
You are listening to Women Today. We're on the Conister Rock today with Carolynn Sells, who, as we mentioned at the top of the show, is a Guinness World Record holder. And that is because she is not only the only woman to win Southern 100 race, but also Manx Grand Prix road races as well, which is an incredible achievement. And we alluded to the Manx Grand Prix race, the 2009 race before. What did that feel like to be that woman winning that race?
Amazing. Pretty much, yeah, it was. I mean, I was really, really together, to be honest, through the whole race, because I took the lead at the end of the second lap. I was in third at the end of the second lap, and then I took the lead. And I still can't believe now that I kind of held it together, do you know, because that is something I only ever dreamed about doing, and obviously I wanted to do it. But I just talked myself around for the second 2 laps, just like constantly talking to myself, telling myself to keep calm and talking to the bike, asking it not to let me down. And, you know, and I managed to hold it all together until I went over the line, and then I just turned to jelly and started crying and shouting and wobbling and pretty much a mess.
Just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And because you've raced on so many different courses over the time, what is it that is so special then about the mountain circuit?
Oh, it's just, there's nothing else like it. There's nowhere else that you go so fast for so long, you know, and the different terrain. You're going through villages and through trees and banks and over the mountain. You know, there's just nothing else like it. Not even, you know, the shorter roads like the Southern and stuff. They're great, but it's just amazing, really.
And obviously the Southern is a very different beast, isn't it?
Yeah. The Southern I think is like more like the Irish roads. You know, it's narrower, it's bumpy, it's fast. I love it. Don't get me wrong, I do love it. You know, but with the mass start and the narrower, you know, it is a different animal to the TT course. Okay,
so I have to ask you then, why did you decide to retire before doing the TT itself? Was it never actually in your kind of remit to do that, or did you make a conscious decision, no, I'm going to stop now?
I wanted to do the TT. In fact, in 2008, I was lying third when I crashed out at the Manx. But my goal at that point was, if I'd have got on the podium that year, then I would have gone and tried to have a go at the TT the following year. Because I did apply to do TT in 2004 on a production bike, but they turned my entry down.
Really?
So, yeah, on a 600 it was, but I hadn't ridden a 600 anywhere at that point. So I went back to the Manx and rode the 600 and did 109 on it, and, you know, did quite well that year. So anyway, yeah, but my goal was always to finish in 2009. So I didn't want to race any longer than that. So when I fell off and realised that I was in third at the time, and, you know, and I thought, well, I can't not have another go at it. So I went back to the Manx and had another crack at it. So it kind of all worked out in the end. So I never did the TT and I never did the Ulster. And the two things that I wish I'd had a go at, but, you know, you've got to be happy with your lot sometimes, haven't you? So.
Well, considering what you've achieved, I would say yes, very much so. And you are obviously involved in coaching now.
Yeah.
What can you even say to a newcomer, really, to prepare them for the mountain circuit?
It's a tough one, you know. It depends on their experience. It depends how much they know about it. You know, I find it hard to fathom people who come over here and have never been here before and stuff like that. I have no idea what that feels like, because I grew up coming here for a long time before I ever raced it, you know, so I had a good idea what I was entering into. So I do have a lot of admiration for people who come over from far distant countries and can't just pop over and have a quick go around the circuit, you know. So what we do when we're teaching is, you know, we take them for laps, lots and lots of laps, talk the circuit. We don't get into too many details, too excruciating detail initially, because they've got to get a feel for the circuit before anything else will start to sink in. So you've really got to gauge it depending on who you're talking to, how much experience they've got, how well they know the circuit. You know,
because at the end of the day, I suppose with road racing, they are public roads, so it's not like you can come over and practice all the time.
No, you can't. You have to go around in a car, which isn't, you know, it's completely different to doing it on a bike. But the biggest thing is learning your lefts from your rights. If you've never raced here before, you want to know where the circuit goes first, and then you can start thinking about whereabouts on the circuit you want to be, and you know, so it's a progression.
There's a brilliant video, I can't remember who he is now, it's a brilliant video with a rider sort of, and he's got his eyes closed and he's talking through the whole circuit, and you can sort of see him sort of moving as he's talking through it. It's a wonderful thing to see. I have to ask you do have young daughters, 6 and 2 3s, as we talked about earlier. What would you say if they came running in one day and said, I want a bike?
Well, Ria did talk about it a little while ago. She said she wanted an Osset, but she seems to have gone off that idea now because she says she doesn't want to hurt herself. So.
Are you a bit relieved?
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind them being a bit daredevil, you know, and doing kids stuff like trials and things like that is brilliant for them. So obviously it would frighten the life out of me now because they're only 6 and, you know, and 3 and the other one's 3 as well.
Bit young yet.
Yeah, a bit young yet. But, you know, if they were 18 and they'd been racing and done other stuff, you know, I'd probably feel a bit differently about it. But they're always your kids, aren't they? They're never going to stop being my kids. So.
And they're little individual human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So let's hear your next 2 choices of music crammed together.
The next 2 are Future Sound of London, Papua New Guinea, and The Orb, Little Fluffy Clouds.
Interesting and beautiful choices.
Yes.
What were the skies like when you were young?
They went on forever. When we lived in Arizona, and the skies always had little fluffy clouds in them, and they were long and clear, and there were lots of stars at night. And when it would rain, it would all turn. They were beautiful, the most beautiful skies, as a matter of fact. The sunsets were purple and red and yellow and on fire, and the clouds would catch the colors everywhere. That's neat because I used to look at them all the time when I was little. You don't see that.
We are both massive fans of this song, Carolyn.
Yeah, I love it.
Little Fluffy Clouds. It's just a gorgeous piece of music. We did allude earlier, we're nearly out of time, so we're going to have to rush through, unfortunately. We did allude earlier to the fact that there is a whole different side to you, because yes, on the Isle of Man, a lot of people know you as the racer, but you are a designer.
Yeah.
And when I say designer, you've been involved in film and TV and all kinds of things, haven't you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I did the arts at college, and then when I finished my degree, I was doing a bit of stage and set design and stuff. And then I ended up making a music video with some friends for another friend's band, and then from that, I saw an advert in the job centre one day, which was really bizarre, for a job as an art it was for a runner on Hollyoaks, the TV programme. And to see something like that in the job centre was really bizarre. So I applied for that and I got onto that and then progressed from that, doing standby props to art director. I've production designed a short film. So yeah, I did quite a lot. I did 10 years in the TV and film industry, doing stuff all over the place. So
That's amazing. And now you work for Lifestyle Furniture, so that's again something entirely different.
Yeah, I do all their displays. I really love working there. The fantastic people to work for and work with. So yeah. I love it.
I have to say as well, though, you are in the middle of something that's a bit bonkers to do with houses. Tell us what you're doing right now.
We're still in the I've designed and built 2 extensions onto my little 2 up, 2 down cottage. My other half, Roger, has done the building and I've done all the designing, and so yeah, designed everything from scratch pretty much.
Gosh,
so.
that is just crackers. And you love the idea of restoration as well. Is there a particular property over here that you'd always love to get your hands on and do something with?
Yeah, I'd love to get my hand on Eric Bragazzi's house, which is at the bottom of the Bala Hutchin, going up out of Union Mills. He's got a lovely big villa there, and I love it.
God, brilliant.
I remember saying it once to Richard Bragazzi, and he was like, "No, there's no way that he'll ever let go of that house." I'd love to get my hands on that. Or Greba Castle, that's up for sale at the minute, but I haven't got £1 million. So.
That is a beautiful building.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of good ones over here. So if you had to choose then, if you went back to the start and you had to choose between the bike side or the sort of creative industry side, and you have to, what would you choose?
Oh, no. I can't possibly.
That was mean, wasn't it?
Yeah, really
that
mean.
was mean.
Yeah.
Okay, if someone is listening, Carolynn Sells, right now, and they've always been thinking about doing the mountain course, what advice would you give them?
My advice would be to do some road racing first, probably, for your average average racer. At Manx Grand Prix level, I would say do some road racing first would be my best bit of advice, I think. It's different when you're talking about professional races at the TT and stuff like that, but yeah.
And I have to say as well, obviously, your fiancé Roger, also an ex-racer too. How much time do you spend talking about bikes?
Not very much these days, actually. We both look, no, not these days.
More about the kids.
Yeah.
Well, Carolynn Sells, it's been an absolute joy talking to you today. We've got the final 2 crammed together of your music choices.
Okay.
We may and want to get the second one in, but tell us what they both are anyway.
Well, Faithless God is a DJ, and This Is My Church, and Energy 52 Cafe Del Mar.
Excellent. Well, if you've missed any part of today's programme, we will, of course, put the listen again on the blog afterwards, and there will be a video clip on the portal too. In the meantime, Carolynn, thank you so much.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you.
For tonight, God is a DJ. For tonight, God is a DJ.
Women Today.